Just after midnight, a red screen announced that history had already ended. 5 objects were crossing the sky. The computers were certain, the alarms were screaming. And inside a sealed bunker, one man had only minutes to choose which was more dangerous, trusting the system or disobeying it. This is the night 5 American missiles appeared on Soviet screens, without a single missile ever leaving the ground. On September 26, 1983, the Soviet Nuclear Early Warning Network reported an attack that did not exist. But inside the bunker, that was the one fact nobody could know. To understand why 5 impossible missiles looked real, you have to understand the world watching that screen. The Cold War had entered one of its most unstable years. Only 3 weeks earlier, Soviet forces had shot down Korean Airlines Flight 007 after it entered restricted airspace. All 269 people aboard were killed. Washington called it an atrocity. Moscow feared retaliation. The United States was preparing to deploy new nuclear missiles in Western Europe. Inside the Kremlin, a surprise first strike no longer sounded impossible. That fear shaped the machines. Satellites watched American missile fields for the infrared flash of an engine igniting. Computers translated light into warnings. Warnings became decisions, and according to a later CIA history, Soviet leaders might have had no more than 16 minutes to decide whether to retaliate. 16 minutes to determine whether the human world still had a future. Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov was the duty officer at Serpukhov 15, a secret command center roughly 70 miles southwest of Moscow. His job was not to launch nuclear weapons. His job was to judge the warning system and pass its conclusion upward. Shortly after midnight, the emergency siren activated. The Soviet satellite network, codenamed OKO, meaning I, reported a launch from the United States. 1 intercontinental ballistic missile. The screen classified the detection as real. Then another launch appeared, and another, until 5 American missiles seemed to be climbing toward the Soviet Union. Protocol demanded speed. If the warning was real, delay could destroy the Soviet command structure before it could respond. But if the warning was false, reporting it as real could place the world inside a countdown no one could stop. Petrov noticed something the computer could not understand. 5 missiles made no strategic sense. A genuine American first strike would probably begin with hundreds, designed to overwhelm defenses and destroy Soviet forces before they could respond. He also knew the satellite system was new, and the ground radars had not confirmed an attack, but that was not proof. Those radars could not see beyond the horizon. Confirmation would arrive only after the supposed missiles had traveled farther. So Petrov faced a decision with no safe answer. Trust the machine and risk starting a nuclear war. Distrust it and risk allowing a real attack to land unanswered. He later described the odds as almost even, yet he classified the warning as a false alarm. Then he waited. No missile appeared on radar. No warhead crossed the Soviet sky. The screens had been wrong. The cause was almost absurd. High clouds were passing over an American missile field in Wyoming. At exactly the wrong angle, sunlight reflected from the cloud tops into the Soviet satellite's sensors. To the computer, those flashes resembled missiles rising from their silos. The geometry repeated. 1 false missile became 5. The attack existed only inside the warning system. Sunlight, cloud, and geometry had assembled a war from nothing. The system had mistaken sunlight for the beginning of the apocalypse. Investigators corrected the weakness by comparing the warning with another satellite, but the deeper flaw remained. The system had been built to detect the impossible early and had nearly made the impossible real.
Some signals are not meant to be found, but you are still here.
Petrov did not possess a red button, and his report alone could not automatically launch the Soviet arsenal. Other officers and political leaders remained in the chain, so it would be inaccurate to say that one man had absolute control over the end of the world, but that does not make the incident safe. In 1983, Soviet leaders already feared that the United States might hide a first strike inside an exercise or technological surprise. A confirmed warning could have pushed frightened leaders toward retaliation before the truth arrived. And once the first weapons were launched, there was no reliable path back. Modern climate research suggests that a full nuclear war between the United States and Russia would continue long after the explosions. Burning cities could send soot into the upper atmosphere, block sunlight, cool the planet, collapse harvests, and create global famine. One major study estimated that more than 5 billion people could die from hunger. Many would live far from any target. They would survive the first day, only to discover that the first day was the easy part. The Soviet Union kept the incident secret. Petrov was questioned and criticized over his paperwork. The wider public did not learn his story until years after the Cold War ended. Petrov rejected the word hero. He said he had simply done his job, but his job placed him inside a system designed for certainty, and at the moment certainty became most dangerous. He chose doubt. The most terrifying part is not that a machine failed. Machines fail. The terrifying part is that it converted a flicker of light into a countdown and left human beings to decide whether hesitation was weakness or salvation. That night, Earth survived because one officer allowed uncertainty into a system built to erase it. Above Wyoming, the clouds kept moving. Across the Soviet Union, the alarms went silent, and billions woke the next morning without knowing they had almost lost every morning after it. The day Earth almost ended began with sunlight.